They better behave.
Oil prices again ticked higher, while AAA says the average for a gallon of gas is up to $3.89. On Wall Street, strong profit reports boosted stocks. The Dow added 150 points, or 0.3%. The S&P was up 0.4%, the Nasdaq 0.6%. In San Francisco Bay, rescuers are still searching for 3 people missing after a boat capsized and sank near Alcatraz yesterday. 1 person and a dog died. 16 rescued. Julie Walker reports the Midwest and the Northeast are getting not only heat, but smoke.
Thousands of visitors told to evacuate a remote Minnesota wilderness area because of wildfires, sending heavy smoke across the U.S. Midwest and Northeast. More than 100 wildfires are burning in Canada, with winds carrying that smoke southeast. Even the New York Aquarium is postponing a turtle release because of smoke. National Weather Service meteorologist Erica Hosick in Minnesota.
And that smoke is following the upper level winds around that heat dome, which are basically taking it from the northwest to the southeast, which then blows that, those fires are in western Ontario, they're in far northern Minnesota. The smoke from those is then going over the Great Lakes, over Toronto, into the northeastern United States, the mid-Atlantic region, New York City, Philadelphia, D.C., Boston.
Warnings about unhealthy air conditions extend from Minnesota through Toronto into New York. I'm Julie Walker.
And it'll be defending champion Argentina against Spain in Sunday's World Cup final. Argentina beat England in the semifinal this afternoon, 2-1. This is AP News. Major League Baseball held its All-Star game last night.
The American League has now won 18 of the last 23 Major League Baseball All-Star games following a 4-0 win last night in Philadelphia. Starter Dylan Cease and 10 relievers combined on a 3-hitter. All-Star game MVP Cody Bellinger.
My first few years in the big leagues, I was here, I think 2 of my first 3 years, and I was like, I'll be here every year. So, took a long time to get back. It's such a, competitive league, and it's hard to be an all-star, health, performance, it all has to come together.
Bellinger hit a 2-run single.
Honestly, this one I just really enjoyed it.
Ben Rice added an RBI single in the first against Christopher Sanchez. Miguel Vargas added an 8th-inning home run. Rays third baseman Junior Caminero left the game after being hit by a pitch on his left hand. X-rays were negative. I'm Mike Hempen.
The latest at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas.
We're shedding old fears today to look at how one of the world's most terrifying creatures secretly saves human lives in modern hospitals. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for July 16th.
World Snake Day is typically a time when wildlife sanctuaries try to convince us that these slithering reptiles aren't quite as scary as they look. But while snake venom is universally feared as a dangerous toxin, it is actually one of modern medicine's greatest assets. Laboratory scientists use the complex proteins found inside viper and cobra venom to synthesize critical, fast-acting pharmaceuticals. These specialized medications lower high blood pressure, dissolve blood clots, and stop strokes in emergency rooms every single day. By studying how these predatory chemicals interact with human cells, researchers have successfully transformed a deadly weapon into a weapon against disease. It turns out that a creature we usually associate with danger is secretly helping to preserve millions of human lives.
That's really pretty incredible that the snakes use this as a defense to get rid of us.
Yep.
So we take them and use it to save us.
We should let them know and thank them.
Probably.
I think they would really appreciate that.
I'm still creeped out by snakes, okay? I'll admit it. We are also celebrating National Corn Fritters Day and Get to Know Your Customers Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
KGUM FM, Wave 105.1, the talk of Guam. Right now we have Pinasta Guam with Miss Louella Lousino. This is the vibrant Pinoy show that celebrates Filipino culture, the community in Guam, and highlights local leaders, artists, and everyday stories that uplift Filipino voices and strengthen cultural pride across the island. This is Pinasta Guam.
araw, everyone. Half a day in mabuhay. Welcome to Pinas to Guam, Pinoy Voices on Wave 105, where we highlight community stories and happenings, including of course, our Pinoys here and beyond Guam. So I'm your host, Louella Lousino, and thank you so much for spending your day with us. Wow, Yuli, I hope you and your families are doing well before we start. So I know it's been quite a week for Guam and the Marianas, especially Rota, right?
Yeah.
As we continue recovering from Typhoon Bavi. So many of us have been cleaning up, I know, like checking on family and friends and slowly getting back into our routines. But I know wherever you're listening from, whether you're at home, you're on your way to work or somewhere else. Yeah, so we're happy you're here with us. So I know we have really interesting guests joining us today. So, have you ever wondered where you can find Guam's laws or Supreme Court decisions, right? Without digging through different websites. So it's really hard, especially, coming from me. I was a reporter before, or I am still a reporter, kinda, sometimes. That doesn't. So anyways, without digging through different websites or complicated legal documents, right? So someone, I guess a team, decided to make that a whole lot easier for us. Did I describe that correctly?
Yes.
A little bit,
Correct.
right? So we'll be talking with Carlo Dizon, the founder of Territorial Review, and Tessa Borja, Comms Director of Territorial Review, which is a free online platform that brings together Guam's laws, statutes, and Supreme Court opinions into one searchable place. So it's a resource that's helping make legal information more accessible, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So not just for lawyers, but for students, journalists, government employees, and anyone who wants to better understand the laws that affect our everyday lives. So, but before we bring Carlo into the conversation, and Tessa, of course, let's check in with the man behind the scenes, of course. Si Yuli's story.
Yes.
Oh, so our producer who makes everything, all of these happen, right? Si Yuli.
Yes.
So how are you, Yuli, after, the storm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. I think I only had 5 days without power.
What?
So not too bad.
5 days.
Yeah.
5 days without power.
I'm
so.
counting when it's safe. I don't count the typhoon day.
Oh, I
Like
see.
I count when Core 4 when they're starting to go out and start working on recovery.
For me, for me, it was slow. It was slower compared
Oh, I
to
see.
Typhoon Sinlaku, the last one.
Oh.
So we got power after 3 days, but for this
Okay.
one, I think after 4 days. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just happy that I
No
have
flooding?
water. Yeah.
No flooding
No
or anything?
flooding. No
Oh, good.
flooding. How about you, Tessa? Just wondering. Or even Carlo. Carlo, were you here during the storm or the typhoon?
No, I missed it.
You missed
I
it.
actually had to postpone my flight because of the storm. So I was actually supposed to be earlier, but I missed it. But Tessa, how did you do?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, I was caught.
on the spot. No, the typhoon, I think it was fairly manageable. Definitely weaker than Sinlaku. But I do love all the notifications about the updates of where the storm's going. I feel like this is the most information people have had in terms of like tracking the storm, and hopefully I feel like in terms of information to the community regarding like weather updates, like I think in prior years we've had these weather updates kind of like in the sense that it's like, oh, something urgent, like it's crisis.
Yeah.
And so I think like right now, every time there's something new coming out from the weather people, people are still kind of like shocked by it or scared.
Yeah.
And so I think now maybe more information from the weather is now being seen as just like neutral information
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than it being like a catastrophe
Yeah,
or a
that's
crisis. So I think there's still that recalibration though, because I feel like every time that we're hearing from like one of like the weather twins, everybody thinks
Yes,
like,
we
oh
love the
no,
weather twins.
that maybe it's like a scary thing, but and it's like being seen as like maybe scaremongering, et cetera, or like, oh yeah, time to like get fill up the gas. But I
Yeah.
think hopefully over time all this information is just seen in a more neutral lens and more information just so that people are better prepared.
Speaking of neutral and non-neutral lens, sa Philippines, they were panicking over. Excuse me, I'm sorry. There was a spread of AI created, how to say this, yung social media posts. So it was showing that Bavi is on its way to the Philippines, and Philippines being a direct hit of the super typhoon. So that was like, it was like really spreading like crazy all over. So people were panicking, and they were asking me, "Oh, are we getting hit next? Like it's going to be because after I think after hitting the Mariana, it's going to be a really super typhoon, like super typhoon. I'm not sure. So yeah, so that was one of the I think yung I was thinking about what were these things that I guess yung connecting to what you said about misinformation and all that, right? So I guess for I mean compared to Sinlaku, you were here Sinlaku.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually I guess I don't know. I cannot say and I cannot compare you how because without comparing it to Mawar.
Oh yeah.
Mawar is
Yeah,
different.
Mawar was
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mawar. My God, that's like 3 super typhoons, right? Man, in a span of four years. Yeah. Okay, so before we go off tangent, I think we're about to go into typhoons, deeper typhoons. Let's go back to the territorial review and to our guests who are here. So let's get to know Carlo a little bit better and tell maybe Carlo, Carlo a little better. So so Carlo, so I guess where are you? What do you call this? It's been a while.
I know,
It's been a while
yeah.
since I've seen you. Like I met Carlo way back, like
Yes, right.
10 years ago.
Yeah, thanks.
So what are you doing now? So aside from territorial review, what have you been up to?
Yeah, so I'm an attorney now. So kumusta? To everyone. Like so, yeah. So I'm an attorney now. I'm based in New York, but I come back every once in a while. So I'm kind of between here and New York. So I am practicing there. I also consult with investment conferences, global investment conferences for sovereign wealth funds, and then I also, but I've gone deep into AI pretty much.
Oh my God, we're talking about AI. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that's sort of like drew me to tech and AI, the investment conference stuff, pretty heavily. So that's where my focus is a lot now is in developing AI tools.
So when you say AI tools, that includes the territorial review, right? So how
Yeah.
did you use AI for developing territorial review?
Yeah, so I mean, the whole thing is basically was built, by a small team using AI tools, led by myself, and we built it so because and I'll get into the listeners because we actually also have for our Kabayan listeners a version of the site called Cartilia in the Philippines,
Cartilia.
and I'll tell you more
Oh,
about this.
wow. Okay.
So if you go to cartilia.ph,
Uh-uh.
and I was actually just there, I'll tell you more about what that was. But basically, the idea is we, law is free, right? So
Yeah.
when the Supreme Court issues a decision or the legislature passes a law, it's free, right? But most people don't know what the text is because, and like, as you know from being a court reporter, it's like the material is kind of hard to pour through unless you're an expert. So unless you're in the media or in law or in academia. And then second, the technology typically lags behind. So, the courts probably publish it you typically publish it as a PDF on the website, but you
Yeah.
can't really search them, etc. So the goal here is to make that accessible to everyday people, and here, but also in other jurisdictions, hopefully. So the Cartilia is actually it's a version of territorial review that's geared towards the Philippines. And I was actually just there. I had a meeting with Congressman Tony Roman.
I
And
see.
I was at the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And, I'm speaking with them potentially about piloting a program with the Philippine House of Representatives. I'm also working with Ateneo, actually, piloting a program with their law school, their law center, having their students use Cartilia to provide
This
legal
is
services.
University of the Philippines.
Ateneo.
Ateneo, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Which is as you know, one of the top law schools here.
Yes.
So it's but the primary foundation is territorial review. So I'd love to talk more about it and what it does and
Sure.
yeah.
So you mentioned. So I was looking at I think it was the PDF that you guys sent to us.
Yeah.
So for those who are trying to understand what it is, can you describe what territorial review is and how accessible it is and what is it designed for?
Yeah. So
Who is it designed for? Yeah.
sure. It's definitely it's designed for anyone to use. So it's an AI searchable tool for people to ask about Guam law, right? So let's say, and it means everything about Guam law. So we have all the Supreme Court opinions here, all the Guam Code annotated. So let's say, for example, that you're pulled up, and you don't know what to do, what your rights are, right as you're being pulled up. Theoretically, you could go directly to the site, search, what are my rights upon arrest while in the vehicle, and it will show you, all the laws in the Guam Code annotated or the Supreme Court opinions that discuss that. Let's say you have a property dispute with your neighbor because, you have differing measurements of the land, right?
Yeah.
You can ask about that, and then it will give you answers to that question. Now, people might ask, there's, I could use GPT for this, for example,
Yes.
right? But the difference is, these tools are not, they're trained unlike GPT and those tools. They're trained on the whole body of knowledge of on the entire internet. And because there are places like Guam where our digital footprint is much smaller than others, we're more prone to hallucination. Those tools are more prone to hallucination for jurisdictions like ours, which means like instead of saying, "Oh, I actually don't know the answer," the tools would just make up stuff, right? So what we did was we built this tool so that it's focused only on Guam. It only gives you answers based on Guam law. And then the second layer is anytime you ask it a question, it actually checks literally verbatim against the PDF, against the text, to see that it matches what it's saying before it gives you the answer.
So you're saying that you territorial review so basically verifies every citations and every reference that will be used, I guess, for the platform.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
basically you can ask it any question.
Uh-huh.
You type in the question in the question box, and then it gives you an 3 paragraphs of an answer, and then each let's say your rights, you have the Miranda rights,
Yeah.
etc. Upon arrest, and then it gives you a citation to the actual opinion or the actual statute that explains that right.
Oh, I see. When you mentioned yung hallucinated responses, right, for ChatGPT or any of those yung AI platforms that we have now.
Yeah.
Right. I know. There've been, I think, cases now, right? Yung legal cases where, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but yung lawyers have been called out for using AI and basically yung getting responses from AI, right?
Yeah, and so basically, this is part of why I think a tool like this is important. It's built so that it's hallucination proof, basically, because
Before we proceed, so can you explain? So let us explain what yung hallucinated responses means. Maybe some other people, people who are listening may not know what it is.
yeah. So let's say you take a tool like GPT.
Yeah.
How it basically works is that it gets the entirety of the internet's data, like all the Reddit posts and all the legal articles, etc., and then runs a model through it, and then allows you to ask questions based on that pool of data, and it's like predictive, right? So it predicts what the next word in a sentence is based on the probability of that existing in the corpus, right? But that means that in the smaller that means if you ask it something about a small part of that giant digital body, it's not going to be as precise, and so instead of telling you that it can't answer that question, it would just make it up. So that's where the hallucinations are from. So and this is not just a Guam problem, right? Like there are cases across the U.S. In New York as well, where so I'm actually part of the New York Committee on AI and Emerging Technologies for the New York Bar Association, and meron coming recently this executive workshop where this is the biggest thing, and it's like it's a big problem across the board. So one of the solutions to that is to have tools specific to specific places or specific bodies of information.
Which is what you're doing right
Exactly,
now for
for Guam.
territorial review.
Yeah.
right,
So
for
instead
Guam.
of asking GPT or Claude or Gemini, which it's like a big box of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and has only a very small percentage about Guam, build a box that only has Guam stuff and then ask questions about Guam stuff. So
Yeah.
then it's easy. It's so you know that it's actually giving you stuff about dial.
Yeah. So, speaking of yung accessibility, right? So you mentioned that it's like website's now available in Chamorro, or is there like
Yeah.
information that's available in Chamorro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is the power of AI, right? I know a lot of people are scared of AI or they don't really know what to do, but this is a thing where, you know, we basically were able to build this feature in a week. So you can ask it, and first off, you can press a button, and the whole website becomes Chamorro. But you can also ask the question, and then it will give you the answers, and then the answers it could give you in Chamorro, right? And then the next step is, we want to build out things, right? So we're in touch with Commission, and we want to potentially work with them, for example, to translate the Guam opinions into Chamorro, right? So there's 792 or 93 opinions. All of that could be done with AI now, right? So I think it's more about how you use these tools.
Yeah.
And again, but yeah, that's one thing we're really excited about.
I know some people are kind of, like wary about using AI, especially for legal purposes, right? So
Yeah.
I guess that's also not just for legal, but for other things because of how do I say this? Yung ethical yung considerations about using AI. Yeah, of course.
So I saw this interview once with Fei Fei Li. She's like people consider her the godmother of AI, and she said that like she likens it to teaching her kids teaching her kids how about fire, because she has like two young kids,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And it's like you can you can use the fire to create stuff, but also to destroy stuff. But it's really up to them to learn how to use it for what, and of course you give them guidance, right? So I think so again, ultimately it depends on how you use it, and I think we went through this with the internet. We went through this with cell phones. It's so I think it's I think it's going to be fundamentally about the person and how they use it.
I know, especially because coming from sustainability circles, right? We're always having this debate about are we using AI like ethically? Is it ethical to use AI, right? So I'm just yeah. So yeah, I know.
So that part of it, I think, is complicated.
Yeah, it
because it uses a lot of water and
Yep,
it uses a lot of
definitely,
energy.
right?
Yeah, and so, I mean, my current thoughts about that are that it's above my pay grade.
I know because for me it's also I know because I know I'm going off tangent, but I promise this is important. But like for me, we work in the sustainability circles. We use AI, and it is important for example, for species identification.
Sure.
So conservation purposes, there's also that. So we use it as a tool. So it's also important. So, anyways, going back to territorial review and going to the language, yung Chamorro, and so why is language accessibility also like? Let's talk about language accessibility and having it in Chamorro for territorial review and also for Cartilla, right, in Filipino. So why is it important, and why is it an important goal to have for platforms like these?
I mean, these are, completely, Guam is very different from the Philippines, but one thing we have in common is the laws are written both in English,
Yeah.
even though a large part of the population, that's not the native language. And so that's something that could be solved easily now with AI. So I think accessibility just means having more people understand it, you know. What do you think?
Well, actually, a lot of these, what we're presenting is actually statutorily mandated anyway to have all these government materials translated into Chamorro. And so, yes, of course, it's taking time, and of course, it's an unfunded mandate. So, a lot of these things have to be like funded piecemeal. And I think with AI, it's actually showing that we can get to that, reach that goal of having all of the government documents translated into Chamorro, faster than like right now, when things are getting translated manually through the Commission. Of course, that human labor, takes some time, but I think if it's a collaboration between like a lot of the heavy lifting done by AI, and then the final product being checked by a human, then that can actually fast track a lot of these things that we have actually, has been the vision of the legislature from, many years back about having a lot of our government documents, the legal corpus, translated into Chamorro, into the language of Guam.
So for now, so in terms of you using the platform, so they can use the platform now, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's,
And it's completely free?
yep.
Yeah. So it doesn't require an account.
No, so and we were talking about this. So we eventually will have a pro suite. So
Oh, I see,
basically, for like educators or lawyers or government offices, but the website will always be free.
I see. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So, we'll say this. So, can you walk us through, like, for example, I'm interested in using the platform, right? So, can you walk us through, how someone might use the website?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you literally could just go to territorialreview.org, and then you see a search box there, and then you type, you could type any question you have, like, what are my rights upon arrest, or what is the castle doctrine, or do the Miranda rights apply in Guam? Any question like that, and then it will give you an answer, explaining the answer to your question based on Guam law.
So, what do you think? I mean, Yuli, I'm gonna drag you into the conversation real quick. Yuli. So, what do you think of using these tools? I mean,
I mean, I agree with
as a
him
community
'cause
member, yeah.
it is, I'm with you, Louella, the sustainability part. But I think what they're saying is like, with the internet and stuff,
Yeah.
we're in the Wild West phase, so that's where we're at right now. So
Yeah.
no, like I completely agree with Carlo that it's a potential, because I look at it as that too. Like there is ways, but I won't depend on it. Is my only thing. I'm only gonna use it as a guardian, or supplemental. But I would never just rely on it. Like this is my answer from AI. like I don't know. That's just how I look at it. Even in schoolwork and stuff, I'm just gonna use it as references. Help me. Maybe sometimes I'm not. English is not my I mean, I speak English, but writing English is different, and like the citations and stuff. So I'm heavily on that. Like sometimes I'm not citing things right, but I'll use AI to hey, help me cite this. But I'll try my best to learn from it. Like, okay, this is what AI is saying. How you cite it? Let me look at it. Cross-reference basically. But but I agree. But no, I think it's like Carlos said. We went through this phase with .com and everything, so
Yeah.
it's just the Wild West right now.
Yeah.
Social media was like this too.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
we need the regulations put in place too. Yeah.
Yeah. But without you going to the debate of using it in ethics reasoning, but I think this is really a useful tool, especially for, I remember when I started out as a reporter before. I wasn't really a court reporter, but I did court reporting. So it was really hard, right, in finding the references for laws and all that. Understanding, especially someone who doesn't have a legal background, right? Me. So it's more like this will be a helpful tool, especially for our current generation of media practitioners now.
Yeah, and because right now, let's say before this website, what would you do if you wanted to know about the castle doctrine? You
Yeah.
would Google it, right?
Yes.
And then
There's a million resources that you can, but then it's not.
yeah,
sometimes,
and it gives you the compiler website
Yeah.
or and probably blog posts about it or news articles, and then you piece it together. But
Yeah.
here, and the cool thing is it actually gives you links directly to the opinion or directly to the Guam code.
Yeah.
Text that tells you the answer, and on the sustainability and ethics of it, my thought on that is that there are giant corporations who are trying to make AI as cheap as possible, and there's tons of manufacturing companies and defense and aviation and hypercomputers and quantum computers, like all of these, they're all using AI. So why not use it for something that helps people on an everyday basis, and that would be free to the public, and I think in the larger scheme of things, our token use probably isn't as large as those people, so our energy footprint probably isn't as large, I hope they can eventually address those issues.
So I'm interested now in learning more about Cartilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk about? I know Cartilla means in this Filipino. It's a Filipino word which means guidebook or primer.
Yeah.
So there's one reference in history in Cartilla ng Katipunan, right?
Yeah.
It's like a revolutionary guidebook or primer for the revolution. Way back when we were colonized by by Spain, Philippines. Yeah.
That's actually
So,
how I got that.
Is that how you
that's
got
how I got
it?
the name.
I was about to ask you what was the inspiration
Yeah.
behind it. Can you explain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the same idea. And actually that reference was in the about page, and then I was
Oh.
like, oh, maybe that's too sensitive, so I took it out. But yeah, the same idea there. And if you look, a lot of the access to justice problems here are the same there, right? Where you have like a couple of websites that have the law, but it's difficult to search. Or unless you're a lawyer who can pay like $1,000 a month to search
Yeah.
for the tool, you have to have the search tools to search through the law. So the idea for Cartilla is to have that to basically be the same model. But one cool thing in the Cartilla thing now is that we actually published the first ebook, and it's on the law of impeachment. So basically, because we
Very timely, huh?
very timely.
Okay.
But sort of taking that away from the politics and just thinking of like what the actual law says in the Constitution and in the in the
Can
opinions.
Can I insert first?
Yeah.
Because yung right now, why I mentioned that it's very timely. So in the Philippines is going through an impeachment process against the vice president of the Philippines. So that's why I what do you call that? I said that it's very timely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so it's
go on.
and it's actually it's maybe a little too hot like to get
Yeah,
into, but
no, it's not. Let's not get into that.
yeah.
Let's talk about the primer. Maybe
Yeah.
the tool. Yeah.
but yeah, so the idea is the same, have a, but because the scale is much different, it's like 100 million people. I think we'll probably there cap it to like 10 searches a day per person, and then
Yeah.
if you want more than that, you have to sign up. But for Guam, it'll always be free. You don't need to sign up. You could just go and ask questions.
So Cartilla is now available.
Yeah, it's at
Oh, I see.
yeah,
I
you can
see.
look at it if you want. Cartilia.ph.
Okay, Cartilla. Okay, it'll take a while. So,
Oh
but
yeah.
Cartilla.ph. Okay.
You see it.
So slow. As the law of the Philippines, so
Yeah,
it looks like when you visit the website, so the first thing that you'll see is as the law of the Philippines, the 1987 Constitution, the codes, and every Republic Act now open to a plain question asked, and the governing provision comes back, cited to the letter, and check against the source before you see it. Wow, this is really revolutionary.
I mean, I don't know about
Sorry.
that, but
What? No, I mean, in a, how to say this, in a very practical way, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah. Wow. Okay.
but it's kind of like the reverse problem where here we hope everyone would use it, but there it's like I hope people don't use it too much too quickly because it's we're gonna have to like
Why?
it would just the back end of it
Oh,
it's
so you
like
have to prepare for.
well,
yeah.
well also just the price each
Oh,
search
oh, I
costs
see.
money, so
Man. So how are you? I mean, so I'm gonna ask you about things. How are you planning to? I mean, what if the platform becomes really popular?
yeah.
So how do you plan to sustain the operations of the continuing the platform in the long run?
Yeah, so I think that's what these Pro Tools are. So because they're going to be optional, right? So Pro Tools for lawyers, Pro Tools for educators, Pro Tools, and for the educators, for example, Tessa and I are really excited about
Yeah.
this. She helped me. She's spearheading that effort. Basically we want to have a platform where teachers can come in and build lesson plans based on the Guam law. So that stuff would probably have a subscription fee, but similar to like signing up for Netflix, right? And it's opt-in, right? So it's not like teachers could use it if they want to. They don't have to. So I think that's going to be the revenue stream, but the primary platform is always going to be free.
So let's I think let me see. So I was about to ask you about your plan for the next 5 years. I mean for the next years, for both territorial review and Cartilla.
Yeah.
So I guess you kind of mentioned that, but you can feel free to,
Yeah. So
to mention more.
So, I'd love to do multiple things. One is, really figure out how to crack education tech. And, because I think, we really can supercharge our schools by having them use AI. So having territorial review be a part of that as a small first part, but then eventually, see how we can implement AI in other aspects of education. And in the Philippines, and here as well, I'm thinking, I mean, like I said, I was, spoke with Congressman Tony Moran. One of the things we're exploring is how to have the government adopt a version of the website to provide its own resources to the public. But there's a layer of it that would be, thinking of, for example, tools for local government. So, imagine if you were like a mayor of a small town in
Yeah,
Cavite
yeah,
or
yeah.
like in, Cagayan de Oro or something, right? Like, and it's like you don't, how would you figure out how to do municipal code amendments or whatever, right? Like, so it's, just tools like that, again, it's like a layer of complication more, so, that we have to crack still. But there's basically a lot of things on the pilot. But I think fundamentally, have it, think about education and have it be an example of what positive AI could be.
That would be great yung having those yung education and training sessions with yung local municipalities and local government. That would be great. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, that's a great yung, next step. So I think we'll just go on break and then we'll wrap up. Maybe let's wrap up after the break and we'll have some fun questions.
Okay.
Okay. Few minutes lang po.
Wave 105, the talk of Guam, a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
Close your eyes and open your senses. Introducing the all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5. Thoughtfully redesigned with a refined interior, larger 15.6-inch touchscreen display, advanced connectivity, and Mazda's signature driving experience. Enjoy elevated comfort, intuitive technology, and craftsmanship designed around you. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 Sport is available from $29,995 or just $198 per paycheck. Get pre-approved instantly at triplejguam.com.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing is bringing the shine this July with our Liberation Detailing Specials, starting at $110. From Jigo to Malesu, we got you covered. Call 647-SLAM or WhatsApp 483-7522. Viva Guam!
Hafiday Guam! The Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association invites you to the Fair Trade Show, Guam's premier hospitality and food service event. Join us August 19th and 20th at the Hyatt Regency Guam from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Experience hands-on training sessions and exciting culinary competitions featuring professionals, apprentices, and pastry talent. Discover new products, connect with suppliers, and celebrate Guam's hospitality industry. Don't miss Fair 2026. Visit GHRA.org for details.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
The road to Adelup is set. This time, we sit down with Democrat candidates Senator Joe San Agustin and former Senator Dwayne San Nicolas. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 8th on the Wave 105 YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
We're shedding old fears today to look at how one of the world's most terrifying creatures secretly saves human lives in modern hospitals. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for July 16th.
World Snake Day is typically a time when wildlife sanctuaries try to convince us that these slithering reptiles aren't quite as scary as they look. But while snake venom is universally feared as a dangerous toxin, it is actually one of modern medicine's greatest assets. Laboratory scientists use the complex proteins found inside viper and cobra venom to synthesize critical, fast-acting pharmaceuticals. These specialized medications lower high blood pressure, dissolve blood clots, and stop strokes in emergency rooms every single day. By studying how these predatory chemicals interact with human cells, researchers have successfully transformed a deadly weapon into a weapon against disease. It turns out that a creature we usually associate with danger is secretly helping to preserve millions of human lives.
You know, that's really pretty incredible that the snakes use this as a defense to get rid of us.
Yep.
So we take them and use it to save us.
We should let them know and thank them.
Probably.
I think they would really appreciate that.
I'm still creeped out by snakes, okay? I'll admit it. We are also celebrating National Corn Fritters Day and Get to Know Your Customers Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
If you're looking for world-class website hosting at a fair price, Pair Networks is your best choice. Whether you're a professional web designer or a beginner just getting your site online, Pair Networks has a web hosting plan that's right for you. Log on and learn more at pair.com. That's PAIR.com. Pair Networks, world-class web hosting at a fair price. Visit us at pair.com. Pair Networks.
Registering a domain name on the web? You should know about Pairnick. Pairnick offers .com names at a great price with quality service you expect. Because Pairnick is powered by internet leader Pair Networks. Whether you need a domain name for business or personal use, Pairnick is your best choice. Remember Pairnick when you need a domain name. That's PAIRNIC.com. Pairnick.
You're listening to KGUM-FM Dedido, Wave 105.1 FM, the Talk of Guam, a proud Glimpses media radio station. The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
Hi. Maraming salamat for listening to Pinas to Guam. So we're back. And so we're about to wrap up in a few minutes, I guess in 10 minutes, right? But we'd like to ask our guests to add anything, to add anything to the discussion earlier about the territorial review. Filipinos have a difficult time really rolling their what do you call that? Their R's.
Rolling their R's.
They are territorial review. And yung Cartilla, yung PH, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want everyone to use it and, have definitely, it's good. Anything that they'd like to improve, let us know. We're always open to emails. Anything, there's a feature on the site where you could tell us feedback. Let us know anything you'd like to incorporate. This is a public resource and a public effort, so we'd love for people to let us know.
Anything you'd like to add, Tessa? But it's been a really interesting conversation this morning, right? So let's do a quick one. So since this is a special request from Carlo, like we usually do our quick fire, right? Like right, our quick fire with our guests.
Sorry. I heard you talking
So we do ask fun questions before we
let's
close.
Get to know. Yeah, let's
okay,
know
so let's
them
get
a
to
little
know.
more.
So favorite place in the Philippines?
I'm going to say Bataan because that's where I'm from and I was just there.
Ooh, is that Romano, right? That's the Romano connection, is that it?
Yes, but I grew up there. I was born in Bataan.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
not
yeah,
many people know yung so people know you as yung Dededo boy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I was in Dededo for most of my
Mangilaw man.
Oh, Mangilaw man.
well, I grew up-
Mangilaw man.
No, I grew up in Liguan Terrace, but then I moved to Mangilaw. Yeah, but I was born in the Philippines.
Oh, so okay, that's a yeah. So okay, now I thought you were born here.
No.
Yeah, okay. So for those, Carlo actually knows a few. You know Tagalog, right? You know
Opo,
the
marunong
speak.
akong Tagalog.
Oh, see, that's a surprise. Oh, it's another surprise. Okay, so balok, yak or yum?
Balut. I like the soup and the eggy part, but not the
chick.
chicken. How about you, Tessa?
Penoy.
Oh, I like Penoy.
Penoy. Team Penoy. Over here.
I can eat balut when it's it's dark.
Okay.
Yes, with the chick, I can eat that. So okay, so now that we're in yung Filipino foods, your favorite Filipino food from your province?
Oh, I like I don't know it's from my province, but it's lumpiang sariwa.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's the the fresh vegetables. Ubod,
Oh,
yes.
ubod, yeah,
How about you, Teza?
I don't know. I love anything with organ meats.
Oh wow! So that's that's very yung Kapampangan. There's a lot of organ meats in the Kapampangan cuisine, right?
Thai and stuff.
Yes, dinak and dinak.
And also, I love goat. So I love the kambingan.
Oh,
That's
man.
my suki.
Same here. Actually, I like goat. Special when it's yung, how do I say this? Oh my god. It's okay. It's going to be graphic, but they prepare goat in the Philippines in a special way, right? Yung they roast the meat.
Yes.
Yes. So while I'm not going to. Just go to the
We're right
Philippines.
before lunch, so we could just.
Just go to the Philippines, experience it yourself. Okay po. So, man, I forgot the next question. So, one app you can't live without.
App?
Yeah.
Oh man, I guess the AI app that I'm currently using, which is Claude. But I'm thinking of GPT again. I don't know. So one of the AI tools.
Okay, karaoke for the two of you. Karaoke, go to karaoke song.
I like singing "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran, but I stopped singing.
No, actually, I'm the rare Filipino who can't sing.
Oh my god, that's like 0.001%.
Yeah, genetic.
Yeah, anomaly.
Genetic anomaly.
Okay, so this is like kind of connected. What's one law you wish more people understood? I guess this is for you guys.
Oh.
Sorry, I gotta mix it up, right?
I'm gonna. This is a cheat answer, but I'm gonna say the Organic Act. But I think more in terms of how we've interpreted it as the Supreme Court of Guam, rather than how other courts, like the Supreme Court of the United States or the Ninth Circuit or the District Court, have interpreted it.
Well, I have a background clerking for the public defender, so maybe like defendant rights, like Miranda rights, and I think a lot of these people are like vulnerable to abuses by law enforcement. So I think the more they know about their rights, being part of the criminal justice system, I think it makes for better resolution, better outcomes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so we cannot go back to the fun.
Yeah. Or let's go back. No, let's go back to the fun questions.
So I guess we'll have to wrap up, right? So it got dark. Got dark real quick.
Yeah, it got super dark.
Okay, one question. Okay, never mind. So I'm about to go tabloid, Filipino tabloid. But if you could give, a piece of advice. This is kind of cheesy, but it's also important for, listeners, especially younger generation, right? So if you could give one piece of advice for young Filipinos interested in technology, law, or public service, whatever sector, yeah. So what would it be? Especially you guys are, you come from all three sectors.
I would say just put your stuff out there. I think when we started this, we weren't sure how people would take it, and maybe some people would hate it or whatever. No one would pay attention. So I think just put your stuff out there and keep going forward.
For public service, I think it's actually very easy to find volunteer positions, internships. I mean, yes, a lot of them are unpaid, but I think, that's how you get your foot through the door, is that you just show up and show enthusiasm, and then eventually you become part of the organization or the fold, and that's really how you get your feet wet. So I think just, going out there and volunteering.
Nice. Okay. So no more weird questions. We're wrapping up. So for our listeners, again, if you'd like to explore yung Guam's laws for yourself or even yung Filipino laws, so visit Territorial Review or Cartilla PH, right? So just check out how the platform works. So again, maraming salamat once again, Carl and Tessa, and we wish you continued success with your platforms. It was really interesting. So, and to all our listeners, thank you for joining us here for on another episode of Pinas to Guam, Pinoy Voices. So stay safe. Continue looking out for one another as Guam recovers from the typhoon. And remember, so our community grows stronger when knowledge is shared and everyone has access to information. So I'm Louella Lousino, together with our producer Yuli Story. Thank you all for listening. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Sa susunod, hanggang sa susunod. Double yun